what's going on? Welcome to the Retro Film Podcast. I am Giuseppe.
I'm Neal D.
And today we're doing something a little different because we are amidst spooky season. It is Halloween time. And what do you do during Halloween time? You watch horror movies. Are they necessarily Halloween-based horror movies? No, just horror movies because this is the time that people just love to watch horror movies more than any time of the year.
Yep. And we decided to do a special because that's what podcasters do. And people watch horror movies in October. So we're going to give our 5. And disclaimer, we're not telling you folks to watch these movies because they're the best. They're just simply our opinions. And we're going to give short form reasons why. We're going to do a top 5. So I will start. My top 5 is a made-for-TV movie that used to come on every Halloween, and we would sit in front of the TV, the box TV at that time in the 80s, and watch Night of the Scarecrow. And that's where I got my love of scary scarecrows. I have it tattooed on my hand here. And I love the sack that was used in it. There's some funny lines in it. It mixed supernatural with slasher, which was unique. And it was pretty scary for the time. And I mean, it was never released in the theater, and the production value was fantastic. And it's just like for real slasher heads, it's a gem. It's always mentioned, but not mentioned in the like popular status quo lists. But it's a really, really cool slasher film.
Dude, like that really is a great slasher flick. And I almost picked it myself, but I also didn't know that that was actually a made-for-TV movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't think it was ever in the theater, but like I didn't know that it was like made for TV, like Stephen King's It, back in 1990. That's awesome. I mean, for a made for TV horror movie, that was like that's top notch, man. That is a great flick.
Yeah, it's the king of like made for TV. There was others like Are You Afraid of the Dark? That was another made for TV horror film. Wasn't as good as Night of the Scarecrow. And you know what's weird is it's I don't know why, but the title got changed to Dark Night of the Scarecrow, but we always knew it as Night of the Scarecrow. That was on the header when we watched it on cable.
Yeah, I mean, like I think it's on Shudder, and I think it's still up there as Night of the Scarecrow. But either way, man, that's definitely a good flick. I think they came out with a remake of it a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it gained popularity over. I mean, it's a cult classic now. I mean, video rentals were really good on it, and it's mentioned in horror magazines. It's a well respected slasher film.
Yeah, it's definitely a good flick. One of my favorite parts is when they're in the bar just talking to the guys, like he's just repeating what he said. He's like, fried chicken. The dude from he was the lawyer in My Cousin Vinny, man. That dude's great, man.
There's some like Bubba didn't do it.
Yeah.
Bubba didn't do it. There's some funny lines. I mean, unintentionally funny lines. It delves into like, crooked law system in the county, retardation. It deals with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and it also goes to show you like how people like that were treated back then because they were different. Yeah. Went after the dude because they thought that he killed the little girl.
And he was actually saving her. Yeah. Exactly.
Saving her. And she didn't even die. Like she wasn't even dead. She ended up recovering and living. And it was just really sad. But it's like, then he came back as the Scarecrow and just did his.
That is revenge. Yeah.
Revenge, man. You got to love those revenge movies. But I will say, it's funny that you picked that, the whole supernatural slasher, because my number 5 is Friday the 13th, Part 7, A New Blood. My favorite Friday the 13th movie. I know a lot of people give shit to Part 7 up to X because that's like where it just started getting like a little weird. But Friday the 13th, Part 7 was my first Jason flick, so I had nothing to compare it to. So when I first saw it, I thought it was the illest movie ever. Possibly, actually, definitely my favorite Jason look. Kane Hodder's first full movie as Jason. He had the torn mask from, and like the face from Part 6 where, his face got stuck in the propeller underwater. So you could see his teeth on the side of the mask. His spine, like through his body from rotting from Part 6 till now. And then until, Tina raises him from the water because it's around the area where you see in the beginning of the movie that she killed her father, broke the deck that he was on and he got stuck under the water and drowned.
Carrie versus Jason. That's what I would.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's such a good, like I've heard people refer to it as that so many times and it really is a good way to put it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, a girl with ESP, extrasensory perception,
Exactly. And it's like
battling him just like Carrie.
right, and it's like it was just one of those movies and it's for me it's a movie to watch on, any time of the year, especially like around this time when you want like a good slasher movie, a good wild ridiculous crazy slasher movie. That's the one. And again, it has one of the most iconic slasher movie kills, which was Jason grabbing the girl in the sleeping bag and slamming her against the tree.
Yeah, she
Everybody knows
bounced
that
off
scene.
that tree like a bouncing ball.
Exactly, man. And it's like everybody knows that scene. Everybody, even people who haven't seen it, even people who have not seen the movie know that scene. And I'm pretty sure that this was the movie where Kane Hodder broke the world record for the longest time on fire on screen, for a movie, which I think was like 44 seconds.
Yeah,
I
he was
might be
cooking.
Yeah,
She
man.
was
I
on
might be
fire.
wrong that it was this movie, but like, but I'm pretty sure this was the first time that he decided to like be on fire on screen again after he had his accident. So he's like, screw it, let's do it. You know, and I have immense respect for Kane Hodder. I love Kane Hodder. I met him several times at
He's
Horror.
a cool guy. I
Dude is
talked to him.
awesome. Loved him as Jason. He's my favorite Jason. Best look to me, part seven. Love it. The tattered look, the wet look, even with the mask off. I remember seeing that for the first time. Dude had one eye missing, barely had a nose. Half of his face was ripped open, and you see his teeth. It was like, oh my God, what is that? And
It was a sick look. Yeah.
yeah, and at the time, not knowing the story up until this point, just seeing that face and being freaked out. Dude, I love part seven. I love the look of Jason from that point. It was just, it's still amazing to me. I love,
That's the great thing about that franchise, though, is that everybody has their favorite one. It's going to
yeah.
be all different ones.
Everybody
You
has their,
know,
yeah, everybody has their
yeah.
favorite one.
There's so many. Everybody has their favorite and series, and mine's this being the slasher purist is 1 through 4. I did like 5, which was a little ridiculous and grew on me, and then 6 was decent, and but 1, 2, and 4 were my favorites, top 3.
Oh, dude, like, yeah, dude, I love all of those movies. I mean, dude, like part two with the sack, it's like that Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, like, same concept, the overalls and the sack head and all that stuff. I get it.
Scary, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, but dude, that's the thing too. It's like a lot of people can have their favorite Jason movie versus their favorite Jason look. Like part six could be somebody's favorite, but they like the look in part eight the most. So that's another cool thing about it. And it's like part six on, that's when it became more supernatural, Jason coming back from the dead, all that stuff. And dude, part six has one of the most insane followings that I never knew of. Like
Yeah, a lot of people like part 6.
a
It was I
lot.
saw it in the theater.
Oh, dude, I saw it in the theater, but not when it came out. Like I think last year they were playing it at Alamo, and I was like, yeah, I gotta go see it. So
My number 4 is it's an obscure one. Not many people probably know about this film, but they should. It is an absolute insane film, and it's called Murder Party. And it came out over a decade ago. It was an independent film, and if the best way I could describe it is if Quentin Tarantino and John Hughes got together and made a film. It has a lot of pop culture references. It's very 80s aesthetic. Uh, I won't give the plot away too much. It's about a loner guy who's watching TV at home, and he's decides to dress up as the White Knight from Monty Python, which there's a pop culture reference. Uh, but he goes outside to get his cat or walk, maybe walk his dog, and he sees a note on the ground, invitation to an art Halloween party. But and it says like killing for art. And I mean, spoiler alert. Basically, he goes to the party, and it's a bunch of art school kids that are actually want to commit a murder in the sake of art, and he's the subject. So, yeah, it's insane. When he gets to the party, it is fucking absolutely insane. But it's such a good movie. I have it on DVD. I recommend it to everyone. It's the if there's some familiarity, people would know this director from Green Room. He did the movie Green Room, which is an insane, awesome, good movie too. So you could kind of get his style. But this was his second film. It's called Murder Party, and I recommend looking it up. It is one of my favorite films that came out in the past 20 years.
You've actually been in my ear about this movie a lot, and I still have yet to
It's a
see.
must see.
You know what it is? I think it's because I wasn't able to find it digitally, and I think you even told me that I would have to buy it on DVD or Blu-ray or something.
DVD's cheap. It's worth buying. I think it's
Oh yeah,
like $12 or something on
yeah, dude.
Amazon.
I have no problem buying it, and it's like, dude, I'm definitely gonna take your word for it because you recommended Deer Camp '86, and I love that movie. I thought that movie
I
was,
got the promo copy
dude. Yeah,
they sent me.
I watched
Love it.
that.
That movie.
Yeah, I watched that. I think on Tubi, and
Great
it's a
film.
great flick. So I'm gonna find a way to check it out. If I have to buy the Blu-ray or the DVD, I'll do that because like I said, you've mentioned this movie to me quite a few times, and I still have yet to see it. And I'm more convinced now that you gave me a little bit of the plot to it. So
It's great. You got like when he gets to the party, you got like all the costumes are pop culture reference of iconic movies. You got one guy dressed up, I think, as like Alex from Clockwork Orange. You got one guy dressed up as a baseball fury from the Warriors,
oh,
and it's just like, yeah, it's just insanity.
dude, that's great, man. I love that, man. I definitely got to check it out. So I'm going to go into my number four. Another movie that is a sequel that I might get some, you know, shit about. I don't care. I love this movie. Halloween 3. One of my
Yeah, you can't. You look, you can't get any more Halloween aesthetic than Halloween 3.
exactly,
That's
dude.
a Halloween night. The
Exactly.
masks,
Exactly.
scary as shit.
Because it was very Halloween. It wasn't like just a dude in a Halloween mask. It wasn't what kids were, what teenagers were doing behind the scenes, when while they're babysitting, after they babysit, none of that stuff. It was more about the actual holiday, Halloween, the masks, Silver Shamrock, one more day till Halloween. One of the greatest made up jingles ever because it's like that's always in your head. And it's like if you're a fan of Halloween, not just the movies, but the actual holiday, you're going to be singing that in your head the whole month of October.
That movie was so frightening, though.
It was, dude. And that was the thing, man, because like I saw it for the first time on like television. This was on like channel 11. And I remember I was like at my aunt's house, we were watching it, and it really, I've said this before, it really messes with you when you're a kid and you see a kid die on screen because it's like when you're a kid and you see a kid die on screen, all bets are off.
Well,
Because
they were suffocating too with the
yeah,
masks and the
and that's the
worms.
thing because like as a like when you're a kid and you see a kid die, it's like, oh my God, like they can get us too. Because you're so used to, it's like at that point I had seen horror movies and most of the time it was adults dying or teenagers dying. But when you see like somebody that's like around your age, maybe a little older, maybe a little younger, you just like kind of like, oh my God, like, you know, it's like they could come from me too. And thing was, it was like seeing that kid, his family, him, his father, his mother, going on a tour of the Silver Shamrock factory, and they're looking at the masks, and it's like, oh, how would you like a mask? And it's like, oh, okay, there with Tom Atkins, and you know, just seeing them go into this room, turning that TV on, and just seeing the kid suffocating. Then the parents start dying. All the bugs and the snakes. I mean, the worms and all that stuff coming out of his mask. That scared the hell out of me as a kid. There was that, and there was what's her name? The woman in her apartment at the end of the day with the mask. She's looking at the little emblem, and it zaps her in the face, and her whole face is just screwed up. Her lips are like split, and just the look, what the makeup that they used for that. Like I can watch that now, and I'm still horrified by it. You know, it's like anybody now can watch like any movie now because like everything's done with like CGI, and it's like, even makeup work has advanced since then. But what they did to this woman's face back then, whatever they like, I can still watch that
Practical
movie.
effects. Yeah.
Yeah, just those practical effects. It's like
Yes.
I can watch that, and it's like I still cringe. I'm still freaked out by her face because like she's just sitting there, laying there in her bed, suffering from what this little disc did to her face. Just gasping for her last breath. Like I was like, I still watch that and cringe. I still watch that, and I'm just like, I took my cousin to see it a couple of years ago. It was his first time seeing the whole movie at Alamo, and he loved it. It's like if you've never seen it, again, we're not telling you go watch it, but it is one of my favorite Halloween movies. I actually saw that one before any of the Michael Myers ones, so that's why I hold it up too. Just like I hold up Friday the 13th Part 7.
No, it's scary. I mean, I have to mention the Tom Atkins on the phone. Stop
Yeah.
it!
Stop it,
Stop it!
dude.
Freaked me out.
And the
But
way the way that scene, the way the movie just ended right there. And it's like you know, um everybody's got their theories as to what happened. Like I have a theory. I don't want to get into it. I could, but
well, I mean, the thing is when you're a kid, you don't realize that I don't remember exactly what it is, but it was had something to do with like corporation greed or something why they were doing this. I don't know why they were killing kids, but something with the masks, but it was a cover up type thing because they investigate the factory, the Hawkins and the girl. So it ended up being some kind of message on like corporations or something.
well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can take from that. I mean, it's like, hey, be sure to tune in 9 p.m. Halloween night, and all these kids are ready to sit in front of a TV, and it's like, dude, it's just the way they market stuff to get you to buy, to look, to watch, to do, to have, to need, to want. And I get that, and it really is a great lesson when you watch it now as an adult, and it's like, oh my god, I know what they were doing here. They were trying to warn us. Much like They Live, man. It's like all that stuff that you watch then. It's like when you realize how smart a lot of these writers and directors were, because it's like, hey man, we're trying to tell you something that we might not be able to say straight out, so here, take from this what you will. Please take the
Oh
right
no,
message.
Carpenter did. He didn't give
Exactly, man, exactly.
a fuck.
So,
He's always been a I'll make my own films man guy.
oh yeah, dude. He's a take no shit type of guy, and like the fact that this was supposed to be part of a Halloween like anthology movies, that it didn't get to work out there. I mean, like that's why he stepped away from part two, because he was trying to do this thing as an anthology, and you know the fact that like they tossed this in there, this bothered a lot of people because they were expecting Michael Myers. But again, somebody like me who at the time didn't see the movies before it yet, didn't know much about it, just saw it as a good Halloween horror movie.
Yeah, I mean that was the first one promoted. I think Halloween 2 was on late at night, but Halloween 1 never got any that was kind of still underground, the original.
Right.
So
And
most people saw part 3 when you grew up in the 80s before the others.
yeah,
I think I did too, yeah.
yeah, and it
So,
was also kind of funny that while he's in the bar, having a drink, there's an ad for Halloween, the first Halloween movie on the TV screen that he's in the bar that he's in.
all right, my number 3 is an anthology. I love anthologies. And it's Trick or Treat with Sam, not the B 80s movie Trick or Treat.
The heavy
Just
metal one,
just to,
right? Not the
yeah,
heavy metal one.
just to clarify, it's the Trick or Treat anthology.
I know which movie.
Yeah, with Sam. I mean, just freaky, well written, really creepy stories. You had Sam tie into all the stories together, like kind of like the Crypt Keeper, and yeah, it's weird looking little thing. You don't know what it is, and I don't think they ever reveal his face either, right? From what I recall, I haven't watched it in a while.
No, yeah, they do reveal his face,
Oh,
man, under
yeah.
the mask. He's a really freaky looking. He basically had like a pumpkin face.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, I get it, man. I haven't watched it in a while, but like I remember the face, man, dude.
I remember the stories. I remember the pedophile teacher who eats kids. the first one, and then you had like the vampire and wolf girls at the party that kill the party goers.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean it's just a funny anthology. I enjoyed. It's the replay value is up there.
Oh yeah, dude. And like one of the greatest things I find about that movie that being an anthology movie was that each story just kind of bled into each other. It's like where the first story like kind of meets up with like I'm not saying specifically, but like the first story could kind of like would meet up with like somewhere in the third story and then go back to like the second story, which connects to the fourth story. So like each of those stories connected somehow, and it was like there was Sam in the middle of all of it. you
Yep.
know Kind of like what would you say, like kind of like the sort of the host of the whole anthology, kind of.
Yeah, I mean he was the face of it,
Right,
that people could connect to.
right, kind of like how like the crypt keeper for Tales from the Crypt, and it's such a fun anthology flick. And like I said, I think one of the most genius parts about that movie is how they all the stories connected at some point. One connected with another one. Like the werewolf ladies connected with that teacher. Great,
Right.
great flick, great flick.
Yeah, you find out the twists, and that guy was really creepy as fuck too. The
Oh,
pedophile teacher guy.
yeah, that dude,
Oh,
that dude really
that
knows how
dude
to
who
be
plays him.
creepy. Like the actor, he's got that face, man. And another thing about that movie was like that wasn't even in theater either. At least I don't think it was. They
Yeah, it was.
Was it? Because I
I
know,
think so.
because I remember a couple of years ago there was like it had like a short run in the theater, and I could have sworn that the ad said for the first time in theater. I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. They had
Really?
it in the
Yeah, I
theater.
thought it would had those
I
short
could be
run.
wrong. I could be wrong, but like I could have sworn it said for the first time in theater. Maybe I'm thinking of a different movie, but if it was, it was. I just thought that they never that was never because I mean you did have some good actors in there, like known actors like Anna Paquin, as one of the
Right.
the vampire ladies.
Yep.
But
Yep.
again, like you said, man, great flick. Another one of those movies that I have tons of like figures and T-shirts for because I do love that movie.
It's a Halloween homage for
Oh,
sure.
absolutely,
100% Halloween film.
absolutely,
My list tends to be Halloween themed.
right. Okay, so now it's my number three. I'm going to say 1980, The Changeling. Now, this is a great haunted house horror movie. It's scary. Like, dude, it has one of the most heartbreaking opening scenes. Like within the first 3 minutes, the dude's on, him and you got George C. Scott, his wife and daughter, like pushing the car through the snow. And out of nowhere, of course, because in the 80s, phone booths just popped up out of nowhere. Goes across the street, he has to make a call. Truck runs in, runs over his wife and daughter while they're having a snowball fight, screws him up, moves into this big, which he finds out is a haunted house. He's a music composer, he's playing piano and all that stuff, and all this weird stuff happens. And they kind of make you think that because, like, the ball that he used to play with his daughter with, that his daughter always used to play, you see it like bouncing down the stairs, you see it bouncing here and there, that you think that it's like his wife and daughter trying to communicate with him, but it goes in a different direction. Totally different direction than what you're thinking because in this house, you had that little boy that died, that his father, you find out, again, spoiler alert, you find out that his father drowned him to death because he had issues. He had like arthritis, like he was stuck in a wheelchair, and it's like this was a very prominent figure at the time. And, you know, because the father wasn't going to be the heir to, his father's fortune, he needed to have a son that was going to live longer than him. So this way, if his son gets the money from his father and the son lives, the father can enjoy the benefits of it. So what does he do? Kills his own son, gets another son elsewhere, but comes back when the kid's older. So no one thinks, so people just think that the kid got better. They don't know what he looks like now. And the whole point of this movie is figuring this out. It's still a horror movie, but then it turns into like a Columbo episode where, you know, George C. Scott's piecing everything together. He's not even a detective. He's a music composer, brings in a medium, which was one of the freakiest, scariest scenes. The way this woman's like staring past the camera while she's has a pen in her hand, and this spirit's like pushing her hand to say all these answers. Then they're recording it, they're listening to it. They hear, dude, this movie like is still creepy as hell, like just scary. Had a lot of moments where, dude, great soundtrack, by the way. Like back then, they knew how to do soundtracks. They knew how to make music
Score, yeah. Quality
really
score.
make you understand. Like, because, it was just like, there were scenes where it was just like super quiet. And it's like, when it's super quiet like that, you're anticipating something. And even when nothing happens, you're still like on the edge of your seat thinking something's going to happen. And just so much stuff happening back and forth, like, and it, even though I just like explained the whole premise of the movie, it was such a crazy twist. Like this whole movie turned into something other than what I thought it was going to be. And just a great all around good horror movie classic. You know, I love
Yeah,
that movie. I
it's
mean, we
great
watched it.
storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, like we watched it last year. Like we were in Salem, and it was like a night after we had finished all our stuff. It's my cousin Gio. It's his favorite movie, and understandably so. And we're watching it, and we're in an Airbnb house, and it's like it's even scarier watching a haunted house movie when you're not in your own house, when you're in a strange house, a house that you've never been in. So you don't know what's hiding behind the couch, or if something's going to come bouncing down the stairs. You've never been here before. You don't know anything about it. All you know is that you got to bring the garbage out. That's
It's
it.
scary stuff. Yeah, that I mean, they did it right in the '80s with the Amityville. It's very similar to that.
Yeah.
There's not just expected jump scares with like bodies flying around the room like paranormal activity shit. It's
Right.
it's in the anticipation of what could happen.
Exactly. And
Like Amity.
there was
It's
just
the
so
same
much
thing.
there were so many great scenes while they were uncovering this. I didn't mean to go through the whole premise. It just like, it just kind of got away with me because really is a good movie to watch around this time of year
It's
because
a sad movie too.
it's a very sad movie because, his wife and daughter died at the beginning, and then you find out that this other dude killed his son, killed
Yeah,
his
it's a
own,
lot of
I
tragedy.
guess what would they call him? Like an invalid because he couldn't walk because he, killed his own invalid son and brought in another kid from Switzerland to
That's
make people
crazy.
think, yeah, to make people think that this was his kid.
Greed.
Yeah, just so this kid could be the heir to his father's fortune so he could benefit from it.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah.
So
Crazy.
crazy. And like the fact that it was covered up for like what, like 60 years? Insane. And like him uncovering all of that, digging up this woman's house, finding the bones, finding the necklace. Dude, wild flick, great flick.
It's a
George C.
classic.
Scott, fantastic actor. George C. Scott, love him. He's been old as he was old his whole career though,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, my number two is one of my all-time favorite slasher films. It's a film called Hell Night. Came out in 1981, starring Linda Blair. She's hot as fuck in it. Very sexy. Uh, Pretty simple premise. Straight up stalk and slasher film in the golden era. It's probably in my top 10 non-franchise slasher films. I have the regular poster, the mini poster, one of the greatest posters too. Just like an awesome poster with her up at the gate trying to get out. Um, they marketed her because she was a name. She was doing a lot of B movies before it, like Savaged Heat, a lot of shit movies. And I guess she needed the money, so she got with a main feature film. Uh, it was played in the theaters. It ran. Slasher films were popular, becoming very popular, and it got thrown in that whole list of long slasher films. But it's just a really fun film. That they go, it's Hell Night, and they go to a mansion. They're a fraternity and a sorority, and they're dared to stay in overnight, or somebody's pledging or something to that effect. Pretty cliche storyline. And they think that, like, they're it's marketed on as haunted, but they believe all of the original family was dead that lived in there, but it turns out one of them's still alive, and he doesn't like that they're in the mansion, and he's pretty much mutated by then. Spoiler alert! And he picks them off one by one. There's some really decent kills. There's like underground tunnels going on, and there's just a lot of stuff going on, and there's some skin and sex scenes, as in a lot of the slashers, but it's a fun 80s slasher film, and I always loved it. So I watch it every Halloween. If you're looking for a straight up old nostalgic slasher film, it hits the mark.
Definitely a good pick, man. I love Linda Blair. During that time, like when I got older and I started watching some of her older flicks, I her from The Exorcist, and it's like you see her when she was like in her um young adult age, gorgeous woman. So when I was,
Sexy.
yeah,
A lot
exactly.
of nude films too. A lot of
Yeah,
skin
see, like
flicks.
I didn't really see many of those. I mean, like I remember her from Night Patrol. I remember her. Obviously, I saw Exorcist 2, and when she was a little older, she did that movie Repossessed, which was like a spoof of The Exorcist, but her as it's supposed to be kind of like Reagan as an adult, but they use different names, but like really just to spoof it. So, but yeah, gotta love Linda Blair. She's horror movie icon. Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, she's done a lot of B movies too. She probably doesn't like to mention that she showed her tits a lot, and
Mm.
I didn't mind. We didn't mind. She's a good looking
Yeah,
woman.
I see. Like that's the thing.
When she's older, I'm talking
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like I never really saw like a lot of those B movies that she was in. I just remember like the ones that were more like in the forefront. So, but
I mean, she's had a career, and
yeah,
she's known forever and iconic. Exorcist. Obviously. Uh, but this is my favorite from her. I love this movie. It's a fun movie, Hell Night.
good, definitely. So, my number two, going back to 1978, Dawn of the Dead, the original George Romero classic movie. Dude, the moment I saw this movie when I was a kid, I was in love with it. There's just something about it that really just I fell in love with it. I mean, it's like just everything about it, from the beginning, chaos breaks out. People in the newsroom, it's like, all right, we got to get out of here. People are trying to figure out what's going on. The military's there, they're busting into houses where, like, it's this whole like drug bust, but then it's like zombies everywhere, people shooting them. Some of them not even caring whether or not they're the undead or not, and just blowing heads off. Kind of like how the original Night of the Living Dead ended, where there was no question. I don't care. I'm here to blow heads off. And of course, the mall. You know, them finding the mall, getting into the mall, locking it off, blocking all the undead out, and basically living there. Finding a way to eat, finding a way to live, change, clothes, everything they needed was right there. And then, the biker gang comes in, screws everything up. Tom Savini was there, had a little cameo in it. And just like, and it's one of the most iconic lines that was ever in a horror movie by Ken Foray. When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. And what's even more beautiful about that was like in the remake, Ken Foray was like a television preacher, and he said the same line. And like just seeing him so many years later, like 20 plus years later, on screen saying the exact same line, it was great.
Well, that film influenced one of my favorite films, so I got to give props to Dawn of the Dead. It definitely influenced Night of the Comet for sure, without a doubt.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
well, that's the thing with Romero, man. He influenced a lot as far as the zombie movies go, the undead, however you want it, the Walking Dead, the dead movies. He was
yeah, it all started with Romero,
he was the king of that, exactly. And
Carnival of Souls,
he didn't even call them zombies. Zombies came about later
the
on.
undead. Yeah,
Yeah, they were just
well,
flesh
that's
eaters.
vampires, but
They were just
yeah,
flesh eaters.
right.
That's dead come back to life, eating the flesh of the living. And it's just such a genius idea on how these zombies, the undead flesh eaters, whatever you want to call them, how they pass on their illness to the next person just with a bite, their saliva, their poison getting into their bloodstream and turning them into what they are, dying, And it was just such a wild concept. Just to me, seeing this movie and in a mall, because as a kid, you know what a mall is. It's like, and plus, I live down the block from a funeral home. So it scared me even more thinking that these things were going to come into my house one night while I'm trying to sleep. Cemetery not that much farther away. It's like if I'm asleep and if I fall asleep and they crawl out of the ground right as I fall asleep, they'll be at my house by the time I wake up.
It also was an underlying social commentary on materialism.
Oh, materialism,
It-
consumerism more
yeah,
than anything.
consumerism. Right.
Exactly, because the thing was, oh, why are they coming here? Because they're going
That's what
to
they
the
remember.
thing
Yeah.
that they
They
remember the
know.
most. And
That's what
dude,
they know. Shopping. But Romero was a genius. God rest his
absolutely,
soul. I did
yeah,
actually get to meet him and shake his hand years ago, and it
that's
was one of
awesome.
the
See, I
defining
never, I
moments.
never got to meet him, but I did get to meet Ken Foray. So I, I got him to sign I got him to give me an autograph on the picture of him holding that giant loaf of bread. I said, "Can you write, dear Giuseppe, manja?" He's like, absolutely. And then he starts talking to me about how he can't get a good sausage and pepper hero in New York anymore. He's like, you know what?
Well, my Ramiro story was he just done a speech, and I walked through the crowd, and I told one of the people handling it over there. I just seem to have good luck with that kind of stuff. I said, man, it's a dream of mine to talk to George Romero. And he's like, well, kid, here's your dream come true. He said, go right up. You can say whatever you want to him. I was like, are you kidding me? So I walked up to him. I said, Mr. Romero, I just want to let you know that beyond your films, I read your book, Making Movies. It was fantastic. Taught me a lot about film, and he just smiled at me. Took pulled out his hand, and I shook his hand. He goes, "Oh, you're one of the like only 10 that actually read my book." He was trying to be funny, but he was funny, and I chuckled. I was like, "No, it's a great book." I mean, he wrote it with John Russo. They wrote a book together, Making Movies.
Yeah,
It's one of the first film books I ever read, which is all about independent filmmaking. It's an unbelievably great book. But he was so glad to hear that because he's like, I always hear about my movies, but no one ever mentions the book. And that's exactly the way he talked. That was what,
it's cool.
and and then he walked off, and but I'll never forget that. Yeah, no, I was glad I got to tell him that.
That's awesome. I mean, dude, like again, I meeting Ken Foray, it was I believe it was at the CT Horror Fest, I think last year or the year before. And because Dawn of the Dead is I hold that up as like top five favorite horror movies, period. Love that movie.
It's a savage film.
It
Yeah,
is, man. And it's just seeing like the way the flesh eaters just rip the flesh, like when what's his name? They just rip open where they casted his leg, where they just covered it, so in hopes that he wouldn't turn into one of those things. And of course, what my buddy Mike and we call the Dennis Leary, the Dennis Leary zombie, the one who gets his head sliced off by the helicopter. I mean, when I was a kid and I first saw it, I didn't know who Dennis Leary was, but when we got older, because it was a movie that we watched a lot, and we were like, oh, it's the Dennis Leary zombie because it looked like Dennis Leary, and it's just hilarious. That was one of the wildest scenes in that movie because you didn't expect it. It's like here's the zombie. He's getting like really close to these people. It's like oh my god, he's coming, and he gets up on a box, head chopped right, top of his head just chopped right off, and just whole face drenched in blood.
yeah. It's a brutal.
That
It's
that scene, yeah, that
gore.
scene in and of itself was genius. And again, the premise of it, the whole idea that zombies are flocking to this mall because they remember that they used to spend money here, that they spent a lot of time here, that this is what they did. You know, I don't know if you ever worked in retail, but like I remember working at a CVS. I was working overnight and I just see this person walking past an aisle, walking like a zombie, head in the air, just, you know, walking really slow. And it scared the hell out of me because, again, Dawn of the Dead is one of those movies that I watched more than any other movie that I had seen as far as horror movies go. So
Yeah, people are
seeing that,
zombies today with their iPhones.
exactly. Now they're looking down. This guy was looking up. But
Walking zombies.
exactly. And it really, really was an eye opener seeing that. And I'm
That
like,
whole
oh,
trilogy is good though.
yeah. And it's like, oh my goodness, Romero was right. See, yeah, the whole trilogy was great. Of course, the original Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead is my favorite. Day of the Dead is fantastic. The ones that came out after it, they were good. More the premise than the actual movies for the most part. Like I thought Diary of the Dead was pretty good. Land of the Dead, I liked the idea more than the movie, but I still like the movie. You know,
Is Diary of the Dead one where they're filming? It
yeah,
it's like a yeah, I like that one
yeah.
too.
Diary of the Dead was the one where it was like all social media, and that
Yeah, they were filming it and stuff. Yeah, I like that one.
right, and that of course was the message for that movie was how social media and everybody on their cameras and everybody doing all this stuff was taking over. You know, Land
Well,
of
Ramiro was still a part of that one.
yeah, Romero was part of Land of the Dead. He was part of Diary of the Dead, Survival of the Dead, and no, I think that was it because Survival of the Dead was supposed to be like a direct sequel. I think it was the one that was supposed to be like a direct sequel to Diary of the Dead because was it Survival? Because in Diary of the Dead, there was that scene where they were in their, their RV. The army comes in, takes all their stuff and leaves. And then in the next movie, it was that guy, that army guy who came up on to their RV, took their stuff. He's like, yeah, after after that video went viral and everybody saw who I was, it made my life hard and it like follows him around. I never fully watched that one, but yeah, that movie's out there.
That was the last one I saw. I think Diary of the Dead. I don't think I've seen any of the other
Diary of
ones.
the Dead, I actually had to go to the city to watch in theater because it was a George Romero flick. I had to see it. It was playing in select theaters. It wasn't playing everywhere. My cousin's like, "Do you want to go to the city? We're gonna go see Diary of the Dead." I'm like, "Hell yeah, hell yeah! I want to go see a Romero flick in the theater." Didn't let that one go by, and I thought it was a good. I thought it was a good movie.
Yeah, I like that one. I have it. I think I seen it on DVD years ago, like later on years ago, and
Yeah,
I liked it.
yeah. It's definitely a decent flick. I enjoyed it.
All right, so my number one we're at, and it had to be Halloween the original. But I couldn't. Yeah, I mean, I watched that every Halloween, and the replay value it never fails. It's just a masterpiece. I mean, for what it did for film is just it's unbelievable. Low budget. There's argument if it's independent or not. It was a big budget film, to be honest, for Carpenter, but it was filmed like an indie film. The way he filmed it, the aesthetic, uh, and the influence. I mean, with the shadowing and the minimal blood is just it's unspoken. I mean, these films constantly copy it. It's the master of anticipation, suspense. Um, just the scene alone where he's lurking behind the bushes and they're walking down the street from school, and he appears and then disappears, and like it's just a scary film for minimal kills too. There's not a lot of killing going on, but I mean it tells a story, and it's moody, and it was frightening and groundbreaking for the time, 1978. You know,
Oh,
that kind of cinema was just not in the forefront at that point.
totally.
Yeah, I mean, it just, you know, it just people try to copy it till this day over and over. I can't really. Everybody's heard this before. It is a masterpiece. I mean, it is never boring watching it. It's scary. That mask is scary. No emotion. Jamie Lee Curtis is fantastic in it, acting wise. Uh, and the beginning is freaky as fuck. I mean, that's just a bone chilling beginning with the little clown mask on, and then the camera centers in through his eyes, and he's holding the knife, and then you hear the, you know, Michael, what have you done? I mean, but even when he goes in and the sister's changing and he's stabbing her, it's just, you know, just God.
dude, when you watch that movie for the first time, you have no idea what to expect because the opening scene is a little kid stabbing his older sister to death, coming outside with this look on his face like not like no remorse, not even like what did I do? Like he just had this look on his face like, yeah, it was me. Like, like surprised that he got caught or something. And, another one of the big questions that people come up with for that movie is how did Michael learn to drive? My my theory on that is he was probably moved from hospital to hospital and just kept his eye on the driver and watched exactly what he did so he could do it himself. I could be wrong, but you know, it that movie I would say is in line with what I would consider a perfect slasher movie. Because it is up there with like I would also say like Friday the 13th final chapter. It's just everything about that movie, the storytelling in it, the way certain things unfold. Dude, you talk about Michael behind the bush. One of my favorite shots, I even have it on a t shirt from Terror Threads, is Michael standing in the bed sheets, the hanging bed sheets. Dude, that is one of the most spine tingling, scary scenes. Just seeing him stand there, watching through the window, watching the window, and then the next shot, he's gone.
Someone stalking you with that mask is just freaky. It's scary as no, just a pale mask, and we all know the William Shatner story. We don't have to get into that. We all know
Exactly,
what
man.
that's about. I
Exactly.
mean, but who would have thought? I mean, it's a brilliant. Deborah Hill in Carpenter just came up with a masterpiece, and I want to mention her too because she hardly ever gets mentioned. Unsung hero, God rest her soul. But Deborah Hill and him both collaborated, made that film, and it's just brilliant. I mean, like brilliantly casted. I mean, I know Carpenter was a huge Donald Pleasance fan. Uh, there was some other considerations, and he had decided to go. He's like, it was like a Tarantino thing. It's like, I love Pleasance, so I'm gonna put him in my film, and it worked. He loved his acting, and I don't can't see anybody else as Dr. Loomis. I mean, it's just it
Oh,
fits
absolutely no.
in the relationship between them two, where like he's the devil and he's pure evil. He's but he still wants to research him and you know what I mean, like that whole thing. It got a little loony towards the ender things, but that's what happens in franchises for money. But like I even liked four. 1 through 4. Two was a little savagely brutal. It was just set in one thing, a hospital, but that first one of the greatest films ever. It's just a mesmerizing film. And to think, no kills, hardly. Very under 10 kills, hardly any blood, one weapon, but it's all anticipation and all moody, scary, shadowy of the chase. And that's what makes the film scary. Is he pops up out from the couch or whatever, behind the couch, pops up when he stabs Bob, poor Bob against the wall. You know, we get to see, PJ's tits, soul stays, nice rack. I gotta mention that in there. But it's just it's can happen. Not in the ridiculous, you know what I mean? But like it's a serial killer, like, stalking babysitters, basically. And, I think it was supposed to be called originally the Babysitter's Night Dead or something else.
Yeah, it's like
But I forgot.
the babysitter murder,
Murders or
something like
something
that.
like that.
Yeah.
But then they changed it last minute to Halloween, thank God.
Yeah.
But, you know, um, that's the premise of it. A little boy and he get deranged and kills his sister, and that whole thing with the Strodes and that whole theory, like stepsister, that whole thing. I don't even get into that. But um, pure evil, you know. And
And dude, the theme song. I mean, the theme song is one of the
Carpenter
yeah,
composed. Yeah,
dude. Carpenter is
talented.
one of the greatest all around. Renaissance men, actor,
And
writer.
I met him.
Yeah, dude, and that's great, man.
This is one of the greatest.
Dude,
Yeah,
he is one of
my favorite director.
Yeah, I was about to say he is one of, if not the greatest horror movie directors, sci-fi director. He's done it all. He does all of it. The movie, the writing, the directing,
Probably my overall favorite director. Yeah, every movie.
acts a little bit. I mean, we've all seen Body Bags where he was he was the host of that anthology movie as the guy in the morgue.
Super nice guy too.
I'm sure he is, man. And
But I love The Thing also.
yeah, and I've seen, yeah, dude, the thing. I mean, come on,
Yeah, it's one of my
like
favorite films of all
yeah.
time.
Dude, and for me, it's They Live. I love Carpenter. Everything, because, dude, he does stuff from Escape from New York to The Thing to Halloween. It's just the dude's everywhere, and he is fantastic with it. Love him, dude. I would love to see him in concert doing his soundtracks and all that stuff because I love John Carpenter's soundtracks. Dude's a
He's a
genius,
great composer. Yeah,
dude. All
in his own
around
right.
genius. So fantastic. Love John Carpenter. So, that being said, I'm going to take you back to 1973 to a movie that we have already mentioned. My number one scariest movie I've ever seen. Still scares the hell out of me. The Exorcist. This is one of those movies that was introduced to me as a little kid that I never fully watched because it scared me so much. I didn't fully watch it until I was about 15. I was like a little kid at one point. My aunt locked me and my brother in her basement with all the lights off. No way for us to get out. Put The Exorcist on. I didn't know how to turn the TV off. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. I was so scared that I ran to another part of the basement and just hid. When I was like 10 years old, we tried watching it. Dude, the second she gets possessed, second her eyes roll into the back of her head, ran out of the room. Didn't attempt it. Then, like, at 12, it was like one of those moments where, like, my buddy's like, hey, do you want to watch? I was like 12 years old, 11, 12 years old. My buddy's like, hey, we're going to watch The Exorcist. Do you want to watch it? I'm like, oh, dude, I don't know, man. I'm scared. He's like, what are you scared about? It's just a movie. Um, and it was one of those points where, like, I call my dad. I'm like, hey, my buddy wants to know if I could watch this movie. No, I want you to come home. I'm like, really? And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, thank you, because I didn't want to sit and watch this. So then by the time I was like 15, my buddy's like, hey, you've never seen The Exorcist. We're going to watch it tonight. I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, come on, don't be such a pussy. Watch this movie. My buddy Mike, we get in his attic, which his bedroom was in his attic. So, like, no light, nothing, and starts playing it, starts messing with me, dude. When I finally got through it, yes, it was the scariest movie I had ever seen. Everything about it, dude. One of the greatest things about that movie, aside from how scary she looked, was the voice. The voice was organic. You know what I mean? It wasn't a computer, it wasn't a synthesizer, it wasn't a voice changer. There was a woman, I forget her name, I'm sorry, behind the scenes, drinking, smoking, and talking into the microphone. What an excellent day for an exorcism. And that was what made it, like, even scarier, was that somebody actually was walking around talking like that. So just this whole movie, like, dude, her eyes, the makeup, the vomit, the flash of Pazuzu on the screen when she's throwing up, when he's trying to get the spirit out of her, get the devil out of her. And it took me a long time from that point also to actually sit and watch it by myself. I read the book and I was like, okay, now I'm going to watch the movie. And, dude, the depiction of the adaptation of the movie from the book is actually very close. The one thing that's different is they don't really focus too much on, like, the psychological portion of it, where it's like, oh, maybe she just heard something and thinks that this is what's happening. But it was just a really scary movie because, growing up a Catholic, and you see the Catholic Church there's a Catholic priest. A Catholic is the one who performed the exorcism to remove the devil from the young girl. All this stuff and what they did to desecrate the statue of Mary, that messed me up a lot as a kid. And I'm like, this guy must, I didn't know William Friedkin's name at the time. I'm like, this guy must be praying for his soul every day of his life after doing something like this, after doing this movie. But you hear in interviews that like Friedkin's idea, the reason for doing this movie and doing it the way he did was really more to make people aware, you know, to fear the devil, not to fear the devil, but to fear God, or whichever one it is, to where it's like, God's out there, the devil's out there. Choose wisely, just to make people more aware. And it was just so interesting that that's part of one of the reasons that he wanted to do this. But it also kind of makes you think to yourself, it's like, should we play I don't want to touch that Ouija board. I don't want to call Captain Howdy. I don't want to bring any evil spirits in here. So it really, again, growing up as a Catholic, being a kid, going to Catholic school, trying to watch this movie, even when I fully watched it, I was still in Catholic school, scared me all the more because it's like, am I even allowed to watch this movie?
Well, I remember your mother sucks cock in hell. That line always stuck with me, which is pretty funny, unintentionally funny. But yeah, I mean, it is a scary film, but I got to be honest, it didn't scare me like it scared most people because I think it was. I seen it years later. I mean, as if I watched it as a kid, I probably would have been scared shitless. But it was one of those I watched later on and saw it. One of the very few, but I watched a lot of those when I was. But that's one I watched later on in life. I can't remember how old. But it's over sensational. This stuff does happen. It does, but it was over sensationalized. I mean, I knew it was fake. I knew she wasn't really, you know, and I watched it more as like a well written, brilliant film rather than scaring me. There's a lot of other films that scared me more, but I watched it more as like a really well made film. It is a great film, great storytelling from the beginning when the mother doesn't know what's going on with her daughter and she's taking them to all these psychologists and they're trying to figure out and she's like, "There's something wrong with my daughter." Like she couldn't figure, you know what I mean? And like finally the priest comes in and there's that battle between her and the priest and he's fighting her. I always thought it was fascinating. It's along the same lines as Rosemary's Baby. It's very similar. You're trying to figure out what's going on. You know what I mean? And but I see how it could scare the shit out of people for sure. And I mean, when she does turn, it does get pretty scary. But I mean, to me, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre in Friday the 13th and Halloween scared me more, to be honest with you. I don't know why, but because I was a kid when I saw the original Friday the 13th, and I didn't want to walk past woods. That the original scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. I didn't want to walk by. We lived by woods, and I didn't want to walk by there. So like, just, but it's a intense film for sure. Because this kind of stuff they do have people supposedly getting possessed. I mean, it doesn't happen like that where they turn like that and spit. That's all for Hollywood, for movie making to make it scary. But there are people that just shake and get possessed, and there's people that get seance, call in priests to, demonetize their loved one, all the time. It happens like in the South. Like there are cases. And it's just, it's possession, basically. That's what the film is. It's about possession. This little girl's battling this demon, this possession. Um, but yeah, it's a great film. It's very, it's like, I put it in the category with Rosemary's Baby for sure. That's a freaky film too.
Oh, definitely.
Um,
You
yeah,
know, well, the thing is too, though, like I said, one of the things that has to be understood definitely is when you do when you do grow up as a Catholic or a believer, and that this story was loosely based on a true story, you know, um, it scares you all the more because it's like, okay, could this happen to me if I don't worship properly, if I don't do the right thing? Or is it, because you find out that the family are atheists, that they don't believe in God, but then they basically invite evil into their home by using the Ouija board, or ritualistic stuff that can bring evil to the home. And that's basically what happened. And it was just such a scary idea for me for the most part. Again, growing up a believer, knowing that something like this can happen, but knowing that in the end, good prevails. Good wins over evil. And that was the point I believe Friedkin was trying to prove with this movie. That it wasn't just the devil's here and everything's going to all hell breaks loose. It's, listen, there's a real fight here between good and evil. Guess who's going to win? Of course, Karras had to take the demon, the devil out of the girl into himself and jumped out the window. But it was all for the greater good to save this child in the name of, in the name of God. And that's what was scary to me as a kid, knowing that there is a real, fight between good and evil that we might not necessarily see in front of our faces, but it's happening. And that's what really scared me the most.
Yeah, I mean the film's in your face. I mean it's about faith, and there's no sugarcoating. Like, this girl was possessed and they're trying to fucking get the possession out of her. It's crazy, and that's what basically the whole film's about. Um, but it's a long film. I know, like I said, it's just so similar to Rosemary's Baby. It's very long and um, very story adapted. Um, and it's just a battle. Um, but yeah, like I don't know. It didn't scare me like most people. For some, it's a fascinating film to watch for sure. If you're into horror, it's essential. It's a must. I mean, it's in the top probably. Uh, I have it in. Do I have it in my top 10 American horror films list on top 10 films? I can't remember, but it should be. Yeah, it's definitely up there in the top 100 greatest horror films ever made for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do want to say go out and see this movie if you haven't seen it. The version you haven't seen, quote unquote, that they put out like in early 2000, it was good. The extra scenes, not necessarily necessary, but they were cool because it had the spider walk that later became kind of famous, kind of a thing that people remembered The Exorcist for. That wasn't in the original cut of the movie. It was one of the original scenes, although in the original scene she does the spider walk down the stairs, flips over, and she like sticks out like a lizard tongue almost. Not like a split tongue, but like a long tongue crawling after her mother and the babysitter. And the reason they took that scene out because they didn't want to have a double climax, because that was when they found out that the director died. The director that was always getting drunk, accusing the butler of being a Nazi throughout the whole movie. Nazi bastard. You know, they just found out that he had died, and then she comes doing the spider walk down the stairs, flips over and starts, sticking her tongue at her mother and the babysitter, or the housekeeper, whatever you call it. And when they released it in theater, instead of that whole flipping over with the tongue, she just and blood just poured out of her mouth over her face, and I don't. That
It's
scared
pretty
me.
freaky. Yeah,
Yeah, because it was
I'm remembering it now.
yeah,
Yeah, some of the scenes.
so when they re-released it, they put that scene in the theater, and I was expecting her because I had seen, the lost footage, the cut scene where she flipped over and ran after the mother. So I wasn't expecting that, and that scared me when I saw that in the theater because I went with my brother. My buddy Dave was working at he worked for his paper at Baruch, and he did like the entertainment stuff, so he got like free tickets to movies all the time. And he's like, "Hey, do you and your brother want to come and see the new the new edition of The Exorcist?" And I'm like, asked my brother. He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right, let's go." We met him in the city, went in to see the movie. They even did like a whole little questionnaire at the beginning, like little trivia with like toys, prizes and stuff. I didn't win anything because they didn't call on me, even though I knew all the answers. But it was a fun experience, even though, like I said, they added all the extra scenes, and you could get it on Blu-ray now, 4K, whatever, with all the extra scenes. And this movie's legendary. This movie is incredibly legendary, and as legendary as the movie is the things that happen behind the scenes, like all the bad stuff that happened behind the scenes while filming this movie, the people who actually died, uh, some of the props going wrong, and people actually getting hurt. Like when they threw Ellen Burstyn against the wall, she actually like really hurt herself. All that stuff, like just a lot of bad things happened during the filming of this movie. I think like even one of the crew, her baby died or something like that. It was just a wild thing to get out there. And when that stuff happens, especially in making a movie like this, you start to wonder, it's like, what's going on here? You know, is it really coincidence, or is there really something at play here that's making this happen? Scary, scary. It's not just the movie, it's everything that surrounded this movie is just legendary and wild.
I think The Strand showed the original a few years back, and I did go see it, and it was cool to see it on the big screen. It made it more scarier seeing it on the big screen. I remember I was watching it, and yeah, The Strand here, local theater, they played it. Yeah, I mean, it gets played in the theaters, and it has its anniversaries and stuff, and it's like Halloween. It's a classic. These films are iconic films. They're must mentions in horror. Absolutely. You have the core ones like Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Rosemary's Baby, American Werewolf in London. These are all classic American horror films. Nightmare on Elm Street, even the original Friday the 13th. You could throw in there for sure. Um, they changed the game. They created something, that wasn't shown at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where they started a new thing, pretty much. And they're unfor even the Omen. That's another scary one. Amityville, the original. These are scary films.
Dude, The Omen is another one of those movies. Fantastic. Again, another good versus evil, you know, and another movie that also became legendary because of the stuff that happened behind the scenes with that movie. And that's just another great movie. I love The Omen. I love The Exorcist. I got to see it again in theater a couple years ago. It was the theatrical version. It wasn't the one with all the extra stuff in it, but it was great right here at Alamo. I was like, another one. I had to ask my cousin. I'm like, dude, do you want to come see this movie with me? Yes. Because like I think at the time I don't think he'd seen it completely himself either. So there are a lot of movies that I love that, I would call up my cousin Vinny and be like, dude, you want to come see this movie with me? Have you seen this movie yet? No, I haven't seen it. Come on, let's go see it. And ends up loving them all the time. Halloween 3, The Exorcist, Silent Night, Deadly Night, whenever they play movies like that in the theater, I'm there. They even played Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D right there, center, wherever, we even went in.
No, I mean, yeah, there's certain movies that I'll see in they do the anniversary. I'll go travel even. I mean, even April Fool's Day, which I love. I went to Philadelphia to see that. I think it was like the 40th anniversary screening in Philadelphia, a cool theater with like Deborah Foreman in the audience doing a Q&A afterwards, which was really cool. You got to ask her questions, but I absolutely love that movie, April Fool's Day, and it was great to see it on 35 millimeter because I'd never see. I mean, I just watched it on cable when I was a kid, so to see it on the screen was just amazing.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, Alamo does that a lot. Like I got to see Falling Down in 35 millimeter again. They Live, dude. They play They Live like every 2 years, and every 2 years I'm there to see it. I'm not. I'm also not like a cosplay person, but when Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D was there, me and my cousin went in with custom Jason Part 3 masks that I made. Silent Night, Deadly Night. I wore my Santa coat and hat with my custom made axe, or plastic, of course. But it's always fun whether you decide to dress up or not. Silent Night, Deadly Night, there was no way I was going to that theater without that jacket on. But whenever you get a chance to see these movies, any of the ones that we've mentioned, classic, like dude, Dawn of the Dead, they released that in 3D a couple of years ago too. I went out to see it, dude. I remember years ago they were turning movies that weren't 3D into 3D, and it didn't look that good. It looked like it was like paper, you know. It looked like it was those old school board game pieces where you like slide it into the little plastic bottom. Like that's what it looked like that was sticking out of the screen. But they've advanced it so much that you couldn't tell that it wasn't ever 3D. So seeing Dawn of the Dead in 3D with how much that technology has advanced, it was fantastic. They did the same thing with Jaws, the original Jaws. They turned that into 3D. The advancement of being able to take a movie that wasn't 3D, turning it into 3D, like I said, it's advanced so much that it looked fantastic. Dawn of the Dead in 3D, unbelievable, incredible.
I have some honorable mentions too.
Okay.
Creep Show. You know,
I
what can you, I mean,
dude,
brilliant.
I honestly thought that was going to be part of your top 5. I thought that was going to be in your list.
Yeah, it could be. It could be up there very well, but I went with my top. But Creep Show, yeah, just always. But I could watch that any. It's a favorite.
Exactly.
Any.
Where's my cake?
Yeah, it's just love Creep Show. And I do watch it in October. Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Oh,
Love that
fantastic,
cartoon.
dude. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I have that. Believe it or not, I have that on 4K
awesome.
Blu-ray. Have it on
Yeah.
digital. Yeah, dude. How can you
Classic.
not?
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, dude. And I mean, Trick or Treat, you know, with Sam, not the 80s heavy metal. That was I thought to myself, if we were going to do honorable mentions, I would definitely add that to my honorable mention because I do love that movie. I do think that movie is fantastic. And I'm happy that it's on your top 5 because it really is a good flick. Love that movie.
And also Night of the Creeps.
Fantastic.
It's not on Halloween, but it has that Halloween. They're going to a prom, but it has that very Halloween feel to it.
Yeah, so in a sense they are dressing up, you know.
Yeah,
Maybe
it
not.
has just kind of a Halloween feel to it. It's just a
Right.
great film.
Of course.
Love Night of the Creeps. But yeah, that's about it. That's my our top 5s.
Yeah,
But you
I,
can watch a lot of them, and there's a lot of movies you can watch in the whole month of October.
yeah, and there are a lot of movies based around Halloween because Halloween just seems to be that time of year that is
Sleepy
creepy.
Hollow.
I mean,
You
dude,
know,
Night of the Demons, I would definitely put into
yeah.
honorable mention. Return of the Living Dead, fantastic flick.
But I mentioned a lot of mine are the atmospheric ones, are very Halloween themed.
Mm-hmm.
Just I like that. But uh,
Yeah,
but that's our top 5, and enjoy watching horror flicks in October. And
thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you enjoy watching these movies. If you have any ideas of any movies that you like to watch, put them in the comments. We'll let you know what we think about it.
thank you for watching as always. This was a special episode.
Everybody have a happy and safe Halloween. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, this concludes this episode of the Retro Film Podcast on our Halloween Top 5s. If you're interested in checking out any of these movies, check your favorite streaming services, or you could go old school, buy them physical copies. And if you like this episode of the Retro Film Podcast, please like, share, subscribe. We appreciate all the support as much as we love watching these movies. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you come back for future episodes.